Awesome. We are live for the 51st episode of the Black Stitch Hockey Cast. Uh, a lot of hockey going on, really across every league at this point. Uh, Big NCAA women. A lot more teams on the slate, a lot more beatdowns on the slate. We'll talk more about a little bit more about that a little bit later on. Some exciting collegiate sport action. Not any major upsets this weekend, kind of like there was in the world of collegiate football yesterday. I strapped in, sat my ass down, and watched Ole Miss fucking lay an egg on national TV. For those who don't know, that would be kind of like if sometime early in this season BC straps their ass in and somehow loses to the Riverhawks, which is always a thing. You know, we upsets at the collegiate sports level are always some of my favorite. You know, obviously, we see historic upsets at the pro level pretty consistently in hockey. My brain was spinning. Pardon me, gentlemen. It's been a it's been a crazy week. That's going to be followed by a crazy week. Yeah, yeah. Whenever you see an upset at the pro level, it's not as surprising as when you see it at the collegiate level. Because at the end of the day, I think about Anaheim, not last year, but the year before, and their crazy win over Edmonton, where Dostal had like 30 saves in the third period. You know, when everybody's professional and has been vetted to be at the top level of sport in their enterprise, the worst team in the NHL beating the best team in the NHL on any given Thursday doesn't have quite the same remarkability of, if Stonehill College ever fucked around to beat Michigan.
Yeah.
And that's a good note to open on for this week. Preseason well underway at this point. People reading way too much into the events of the preseason so far. Do want to give a shout out to a friend of the program. A lot of love to Riley Duran for getting into his first preseason NHL game with the Spoked Bee. And on another note, affiliated to that, being credit to hockey stat cards over on Twitter for being one of the only Bruins players who wasn't complete shit in that game against the Rangers. So he's off to a great start, assuming he's probably already been sent down to Providence to finish out training camp. Best of luck to him in his inaugural professional season. Off to a real good start in front of the people at home that maybe didn't know his game from what he did last season at Providence. And with that cold open, as we're talking about prospects, I think I'm going to roll this and set this up for Liam to roll into his opening as we've been doing in recent weeks, mainly on the precipice of, this is kind of the big point in where prospect spotlight's going to supersede pro spotlight. As everybody who watches this podcast and follows our articles know, we really don't do a lot of NHL based articles. So until the NHL gets rolling, this is the best time for this corner to have its most open visibility and dialogue.
Yeah. To so I basically so I can get these rattled off first, since they can be the most challenging thing, and then just sort of hit upon the scores and statistics and different on ice performances. I'll handle the off ice headlines for CHL, USHL, and adjacent for this week. And then, just knock all of those out. So we have another juicy Rick Westhead reported development in the NCAA CHL legal talks regarding the inevitably going to open Forbidden Door. He states, new U.S. junior hockey player Nick Avakin has been added as a plaintiff to a proposed class action lawsuit against the NCAA and 10 universities, alleging they are violating antitrust laws by preventing anyone who has played a game for a major junior team from playing NCAA hockey. Avakin, 20, plays in the North American Hockey League after playing in parts of 3 seasons for the WHL's Tri-City Americans, which cost him his eligibility in the NCAA. Avakin and former OHL player Rylan Masterson have argued in a lawsuit filed last month in U.S. District Court that the NCAA and U.S. universities are anti-competitive and violate antitrust laws because of that rule. Avakin's lawyer told me that he is asking a judge to grant a preliminary injunction that would allow Avakin to play NCAA hockey in the 25-26 season. So the body of lawsuit is partially available within this tweet as well. I will read introduction and section 3 from there. Let's see. Intro. Plaintiff Nicholas Avakin is a 20-year-old American, strong student, high school graduate, and elite ice hockey player. Next season, he wants to play National Collegiate Athletic Association, NCAA, Division I ice hockey. There can be no real dispute that he is good enough to play at that level. Indeed, Nick has excelled at every level of competition, including against the best players his age in the world. And experts believe he has what it takes, but no Division I team will take him. That is because starting when he was 16 years old, Nick played 3 seasons in the Canadian Hockey League, CHL, a junior hockey league with teams in the United States and Canada for players between ages 16 and 21. During that period, Nick lived away from home and received a stipend of $175 every 2 weeks for food and gas, far below minimum wage. Yet, according to the NCAA, which oversees Division I collegiate sports programs, where athletes routinely receive hundreds of thousands of dollars from their schools and through NIL deals, that makes Nick a professional athlete whose presence would taint the NCAA status as a league for amateur athletes. As a result, presumably in the name of amateurism, Nick, like every other former CHL player, is banned from playing Division I hockey for any NCAA member institution. The NCAA's justification is pure pretext. In other sports, the NCAA and its member institutions permit former professional athletes to participate in Division I sports, as well as those who have received hundreds of thousands of dollars of prize money. In men's ice hockey, professional European players are frequently allowed to play, and most rosters are comprised primarily of players from the United States Hockey League, a league that provides players with benefits similar to what Nick received. And while CHL players are prohibited from playing NCAA men's ice hockey, they are permitted to play NCAA women's ice hockey. Let's see. Section 3, plaintiff is ready, willing, and able to play Division I hockey. Nick was born in February 2004 in California, where his family still lives. Declaration of Nicholas Avakin. When he was 16, he moved away from home to play goaltender for 3 seasons in the CHL for the Tri-City Americans and then for the Portland Winterhawks. Nick received a stipend every week between $175 and $200, while spending between 35 and 63 hours per week on team-related work. In his 3rd season, Nick also played for the Whitecourt Wolverines, a Canadian Junior A team. He was among the highest-performing goaltenders during the playoffs, and many of his former teammates have committed to NCAA Division I hockey. Nick is currently playing goaltender for a Null team. Many players who played on that team last year are likewise committed to NCAA Division One hockey. Nick wants to play Division One hockey next year when he will be too old to play in the CHL. He graduated from high school with a 3.34 GPA. Industry experts believe, based on their firsthand observations of Nick's play and work habits, that he is good enough to play Division One, NCAA Division One hockey next year. But the boycott precludes him from doing so. Moving off that and into the world of interesting commitments from league to league, we had a WHL to USHL transfer in a pretty rare event, as the Portland Winterhawks directly confirmed that goaltender Jan Spoonar has been an important cog of the machine for them recently. Actually departed to sign an agreement with, or a tender, I believe is the terminology they use in that particular league, with the Dubuque Fighting Saints. We don't really have much indication under what pretenses this move was done under, but it was definitely curious development. It is worth noting that when you hit the 20 years old spot that Spoonar has, that there are limited roster spots as teams are only permitted to retain, I believe, I think 20-year-olds on their roster at any given time. So like that, it can just be a logistical matter, but it is curious that he pivoted to an environment in a different geographical region of the United States and with different competitive demands. He certainly is bringing a lot of talent to that roster, who probably have a bigger dearth at goaltender than anything else. So I'm interested to see what it does in an on-ice context. Speaking of Dubuque and on-ice and off-ice matters related to them, they properly commemorated the retirement of Johnny Gaudreau, recently departed alumnus of their ranks, as their first ever retired number. So that on the back of Guy Gaudreau being invited by John Tortorella to the Philadelphia Flyers practice to help with facilitating coaching, that was another nice, very nice gesture there to see and get that headline on. Speaking of Dubuque, I guess they're the focus for the USHL this week. After kind of starting on the wrong foot in the opening weekend, they had a pretty good bounce back on Thursday and Friday against the Tri-City Storm, as with the first of those games being played at the UPMC Lemieux Sports Complex in Cranberry Township, Pennsylvania. That would be located in the Pittsburgh metropolitan area, specifically in Butler County. Nice little showcase game there. 3-2 victory in the shootout with let's see, winger Torkel Generso being the hero at that matchup. He had a primary assist on Josh Niedermeyer's goal, which knotted the score at 1-1. Wait, no, my bad. Right. Cut the score to 2-1. Then tied the game up at 2-2, 2-all, whatever you want to call it, with Boston Bruins draft selection and Boston University commit Jonathan Morello. Hold on, let me double check something. Yes, okay. So second line center, getting the primary assist on that, and then Generso subsequently being the hero in the shootout that scored the goal that stood as the decider in that one. Subsequently, on Friday, they defeated Tri-City again in at home in Dubuque, 5-1. Let me take a look once more at the some of the superlatives from that game. Let's see. That was the first game, notably, in the this season so far, in which Dubuque scored the opening goal. Charlie Arend won a faceoff back to Cooper Dennis, who knocked one home, ripped a nice snapshot for his first career USHL goal, as noted in the let's see, in the report for that game. Generso scored again in that matchup to continue his good form. Heikki Ruohonen, a Harvard University commit and a Philadelphia Flyers draft selection. It probably means he's too smart to ever actually play for us. Um, also scored his first USHL goal in that matchup as the offensive productivity really rolled in that game. Really got everyone going. Jonathan Morello scored his first USHL goal in that matchup, as well as he did some dirty work in front of the net and put one home, cleaning up the garbage. So a lot of good first looks in that game. Also, some good news for Bruins fans in that event. As I said, that was one of the day two selections I thought was like sneakily very good based off of his tier two junior performance and the direction he seemed headed in. It should be pretty good, exciting to track his junior career and his collegiate trajectory. Let's see. Now we'll move over to some quick QMJHL scores from today. A couple of games I monitored include the Quebec Rempart, who skated away to a 9-1 victory over the Victoriaville Tigers. Benjamin Vigneault, defenseman, was the first star of that game with 2 goals, 3 assists, and a +1. I should note also that this was just like an absolute cascade of an offensive performance, because Victoriaville scored first, but then the next 9 goals of the game were all scored by Quebec after they had conceded first. Approximately 9 minutes and 31 seconds left, 9 minutes and 31 seconds into the first period, and then just completely, they just floored it, and they never let up. 0-60 very fast. Subsequently, including 3 goals before the first period was over after that initial concession, and 4 goals in the second period. Pretty remarkable stuff there, especially considering, possession pretty similar. Similar shots on goal totals. Looks like 36-34 in favor of Quebec there. Just very efficient shooting. Definitely quite the PDO anomaly game right there. I also watched a bit of Baikomo Drakar's matchup against with the Chicoutimi Saguenayens. Baikomo won 6-5 in overtime, despite the strong efforts by 6-5 in OT. It's despite the real strong comeback attempt by Chicoutimi there in the third, with 2 goals in a matter of a minute and 7 seconds in the dying minutes of the third period by Emile Guite, with he and Maxime Massé really having a good performance in that matchup. And Emile Duque, let's see, with Massé having the primary assist, with Alex Wang getting the secondary on Guite's goal, and Duque being assisted by Nathan Lecomte and Peteris Bouland. before Thomas Chaffee, assisted by Justin Poirier. Another day two selection I was a big fan of last year by Carolina, or this past draft, I should say. And Lucas Beckman getting the assists that had occurring 3 minutes and 9 seconds into the extra stanza. So, a very good competitive matchup. Dakota had a notable advantage on the face-off draw. On the face-off dot in that matchup, 47 to 29, narrowly outshot 32 to 31 by Como. Really gave it their all in that matchup. Just couldn't quite close the door after opening up the possibilities there. But the quite a an effort that I'm sure the coaching staff can be content with. Now at the OHL, the season opened with the Saginaw Spirits Memorial Cup banner raising ceremony and at their home opener at the Dow Event Center. But despite some strong performances, such as Michael Misa's 2-goal output, which initially put them up 2-1 after conceding first, as the exceptional status player seems to be really blossoming in his DY. Let's see. Ultimately, Windsor would win 5-4, with Jack Nesbitt being the OT hero to spoil the host's very special night. Very competitive game to kick things off. Definitely, one of the most exciting games I've seen in this early season so far. The next night, we had Kingston taking on the Frontenacs, taking on the Peterborough Petes on the road. Kingston won 7-2 in that matchup. Jacob Battaglia and Tyler Hopkins both had 3-point nights for the guests. Goal and 2 assists by both of them, as well as a +2 to be the first and second star selections. Very good team victory there. Contributions from a lot of different players. Then we subsequently had, over the course of Friday and Saturday, let's see, we had Flint and the London Knights having a nice little home and home there. The Firebirds defeated London in their season/home opener on the road, with Flint emerging 7-4 victors at Budweiser Gardens in London. Nolan Collins was the first star at that game, as he had a 2-goal and 2 assists output and a +3. Good showing by the defenseman there. And Evan Kanyan, right wing, 2 goals, 1 assist, and a +2. Whereas the hometown team's William Nickel had the second star selection with a 2-goal and 1 assist performance of his own. Let's see. Let me take a look at their roster real quick. Yeah, it does appear that a few guys are still over. They're still out in training camp, still getting their looks. Some of those guys are, as you would expect from the London Dev Machine, might get a look in the NHL this year at some point, if not getting an immediate call up, or at least going to be among the last cuts. I can know for certain that that's occurring with Denver Barkey and Oliver Blanc. And I believe that's the case for Easton Cowan as well. So they're kind of in their cutting their teeth phase at this point. Their roster depth is kind of just waiting to return at this point. But they did also take the other end of that home and home, 5-2, defeating the Firebirds in Flint by that score. Let's see.
Yeah, five different goal scorers. Good team victory there. Ethan Van Gorp, uh, multi-point night as he had an assist as well as the empty net goal to ice it. So nice, little confidence boost there. Kind of stat padding a bit, but he'll take it, I'm sure. Uh, so kind of a mixed bag thing for the Knights there, but I'm sure they're content with the split given the circumstances with their roster. I'm sure they're more happy than the Kitchener Rangers, their classic rivals, are after the game that occurred in for them as the Windsor Spitfires had about as eventful of a home opener as you could possibly ask for. They defeated the Kitchener Rangers 12-2 last night as 2024 first overall OHL priority selection pick. Ethan Belche, left wing, 6'4", 231, already quite the build on him this early in his career. Made quite the pronouncement onto the scene. Ethan Garden started off this game by scoring his first ever OHL goal, but it was quick, and he had a +2 in the third star selection, but it was pretty quickly forgotten about as Belche had 4 goals and 2 assists. These were his first 4 goals in his OHL career, mind you. A +4 to go along with those 6 points, and got into a fight as the night was quite eventful. So uh, Gordie Howe hat trick on top of the um, early pronouncement with that ridiculous offensive output. So his draft stock, looking ahead to his eligibility in 2026, is already looking quite good. So that was that whole game was quite the entertainment source for just about everyone other than Kitchener Rangers fans. That's for sure. Definitely something to sort of uh, in, kind of give an adrenaline shot to the early phases of the OHL season. Have that sort of individual performance go on, and as part of like such a show overall. Now, moving over to the WHL, I'll knock this out as fast as I can. There was quite a lot of exciting stuff just within the last couple of days. Let's see. The Edmonton Oil Kings defeated the Calgary Hitmen 4-1 yesterday. Let's see. Adam Yeko was one player I had a bit of an eye on. Good physical presence there. I had a goal in that matchup, which eventually stood as the GWG, as well as an assist in this game as well. So here in the second star, Alex Worthington was the first star with 33 saves on 34 shots for Edmonton in that matchup. Let's see. We had Moose Jaw versus Regina today. The Pats won 4-3. Zachary Shantz, first star in that game. Let's see. 1 goal, 2 assists, +1. John Babcock, 3 assists, +2 for the second star selection for the lefty defenseman. Ty Spencer was the overtime hero in that matchup, with him tallying the winner just before it ended, with Babcock tallying the sole assist on that one. Let's see. Yesterday we had a bit of a rivalry matchup as Spokane versus Tri-City went down. Shea Van Olm was the first star as he had 2 goals and 1 assist for Spokane in their 4-1 victory. Rasmus Ekstrom had a good showing as well. The center had 1 goal and 2 assists to get the second star nod. Dawson Cowan, third star, 33 saves in the win. The it's also worth noting Spokane has announced that Berkeley Catton, who was just recently released from the Seattle Kraken's training camp, will be wearing the captain's C this year. Everett won 8-2 against Portland last night. Good showing for Ducks prospect Terrence Smith, one of the last players scouted by the late great Glenn Cochran. Was a big advocate for his selection. He had the second star in that matchup with 1 goal, 3 assists, and a +5. Dominic Ryman, the left winger, 1 goal, 1 assist, +3. Landon Dupont, exceptional status player and top selection in this most recent WHL draft. 2 assists and a +2 as the young defenseman earned the 3rd star at that matchup. Let's see. Yesterday, we also had the Saskatoon Blades versus the Brandon Wheat Kings. In a very competitive matchup, Saskatoon emerged 4-3 victors. Rowan Calvert, left winger for Saskatoon, 2 goals, +1 for the 1st star. Nolan Flamond, Brandon Wheat Kings center, had 2 assists and a +1 to get the 2nd star in that matchup. Ben Risch, Saskatoon center, open into scoring. That goal earned him the 3rd star of the game. Worth noting that Roger McQueen, who's having a pretty good start to his DY, scored his 6th goal of the year in that matchup. Marcus Nguyen had a multi-point performance as well, with a goal and a primary assist on McQueen's tally. Let's see, we had an overtime matchup last night. Wenatchee and the Seattle Thunderbirds went toe-to-toe. Seattle won 5-4 in overtime. Coster Dunn, let's see, he was the 1st star of this matchup with a goal and assist and a +1. Kenta Isagai from Wenatchee, 1 goal, 1 assist and a +2 for the 2nd star. Sam Charco, Seattle Thunderbirds left winger, 1 goal, 1 assist, and a +2 for the 3rd star of the game. Nashawn Palmer was the overtime hero in that matchup as he scored just about 2.5 minutes into the extra frame, and Braden Coots tallied the assist as Seattle had a good showing in that intrastate rivalry that's sort of budding, I suppose, between them and Wenatchee and Washington. Let's see. Prince Albert versus Swift Current was a good matchup last night. As Swift Current won 5-4. Let's see. Dawson Gerwing, 1 goal and 2 assists and a +2 for the 1st star in that matchup. Good showing by the left winger for the Broncos. Brady Burney, 2 goals for the 2nd star, and Prince Albert's center Thomas Mirsic, 1 goal and 1 assist for the 3rd star selection. Pretty good competitive matchup up there. And last, or wait, no, hold on. I'm going to put it off for just 1 more second. Then we can get into the greatness that was the matchup by my favorite team in the CHL last night. But we had Medicine Hat versus Red Deer. Red Deer emerged victorious 4-3 last night. Retzstosser had 37 saves in the victory to earn him the 1st star. Ole Josephson, 1 goal, 1 assist, +2, 2nd star selection for Red Deer. Jonas Wu, righty defenseman for Medicine Hat, had 1 goal and a +1 for the 3rd star in that matchup. Andrew Basha notably scored a goal in this game as well for Medicine Hat, as with Gavin McKenna tallying a primary assist. So good showing by the Calgary Flames prospect, as well as the 2026 top prospect, as their power play unit went to work. I'm sure they were not super stoked with the result, but they exhibited good form, and I'm sure this season is still going to be quite successful. But last but not least, of course, uh, you know, the Victoria Royals' outstanding form to begin the year has continued as they emerged victorious 5-2 against the Kamloops Blazers last night in a game that was actually pretty competitive, more so than it looked. We had at one point um, there were a few junctures at which Kamloops looked pretty firmly in charge. They were leading 2-1 on the merit of their power play work, but eventually we things got clicking for Victoria at the right moments. The first goal of the game was notably scored by Cosmo Wilson and assisted by Keaton Verhoff as that hulking right-handed defenseman who's eligible for next year's draft continues his phenomenal form. With Wyatt Danileko getting the secondary helper on that tally. Cole Rezhny assisted Nolan Stewart on his first goal of his WHL career to tie things up at 2. Tanner Scott, with the help of Reggie Newman, on just a phenomenal, very speedy play. Scored the goal that stood as the game winner. Rezhny scored his first goal of the year on the power play after what was a dominant shift in which he was just doing what he had been doing all game long, creating separation and finding seams for those passing lanes when it seemed like he was under a lot of pressure, just creating his own time and space. And Reggie Newman would ultimately ice it with 40 seconds remaining on an empty net goal, which was also shorthanded from behind his own goal line because at that point you can afford to, do those Hail Marys because you're not going to get called for it. You're not going to get icing. But I'm not sure if he fully banked on that, but I'm sure he was content with it. Nate Miskey had his second assist of the game in that one. Uh, let's see, and Rezhny had the secondary helper to account for a 3-point night for him. So despite facing some strong competition, Jaden Krause had to make some incredible saves in that matchup, including a split on a 2-on-0, which I thought for sure was going to be going in. And Dylan Ernst put on his own work on in between the pipes for Kamloops as well. But definitely a game, where if just some chances sort of get flipped, things might go the other way. But definitely good to see Rezhny Talia's first of the year have multi-point performance, 7 shots on net +3 in that matchup, 15 for 27 on the draw. Great overall performance by him. Should be interesting to see what these guys who are growing and only have Justin Kipke remaining to come back from the NHL training camps at this point. Let's see what they do at full strength, and now that they're budding, to have points, 3 wins and an overtime loss in their first 4 games after losing 4 regulation games to start off the year definitely seems to suggest growth. So if they're a competitor this year, I won't be too surprised after having monitored them so closely the last couple of seasons. And at last, that wraps up all our developments for this week.
You know what I was thinking about? Where my brain, my ADD brain wandered off into and all of that. You know something? I'm going to spit some facts that are moderately irrelevant. I think it's crazy to think that Marion Hossa was older than Marion Barber, but I also enjoy the fact that there was a point in time where both Marion Hossa and Marion Barber were playing for Chicago sports teams in 2011.
Yeah.
And it's fucking sick, bro.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing. It was top tier right there. I don't know why, but when you're talking about Marion Barber, like I was just sitting here thinking about like Tiki Barber, and I'm like, damn, did I forget about Tiki Barber playing in Chicago? I'm like, shit, man. They both wear blue.
No, you see the problem. And this is actually where this is maybe getting a little bit interesting. So Marion Hossa was born in 1979. And Marion Barber was born in 1983. But Tiki Barber was born in 1975. And due to the fact that college football players have a requirement of NCAA status, as well as the amount of seniors that used to get drafted in the first round of the NFL, both Marion Hossa and Tiki Barber were taken in 1997.
Shit.
And you know what else involves 1997? Hong Kong 97.
Oh, man. There's always that circle.
And unlike Tiki and Marion Barber, where that circle ends is Marion Hossa actually won a championship.
Yeah.
Damn.
I think that's the safe conclusion because there was there was a dark space where my mind went to, and I'm like, oh, I can't go there. It's not the time.
I thought you were going to say it's not the Jedi way.
I mean, probably not.
But you know who does have something in common with Tiki Barber from the class of 1997? Joe Thornton, who also never won a championship.
I knew that I was going to
And Patrick Marlowe. Wait, am I going to pull another crazy bullshit out of... No. Harold Druken was the 36th pick in the NHL draft that year, so matching across party lines, Tiki Barber was more successful than the 36th overall selection in that draft class.
Yeah.
But at least Marion Barber played for the Minnesota Golden Gophers, who have a good hockey program.
Nice.
And wouldn't you
Yeah,
know, question is, am I going to pull off something great, or is this going to die? And at 109th overall, matching Marion Barber in the class of 2005, was Andrew Thomas. But conspiracy theory, one pick before Andrew Thomas was Nicholas Hjalmarsson, who was on the Stanley Cup winning team with Marion Barber, and the player taken after Andrew Thomas was Kyle Bailey, who was taken by the Minnesota Wild.
Damn.
That's pretty good.
This is enough great coincidences that I'm really glad my full ADHD just fell down a rabbit hole tonight.
I think it's also the first time anybody's ever confused Marion Hossa and Marion Barber.
I didn't confuse them, but like my brain was kind of like,
yeah. You were
what if Marion Hossa had dreads like Marion Barber? Like, what if Marion Hossa could hit the slot with the conviction Marion Barber hit offensive line trenches with?
Oh, man.
If Randy Bly could kill a guy in the Czech Republic with dreadlocks, why can't Slovakia and Marion Hossa have played in the NHL with dreadlocks?
Man,
Involuntary manslaughter. I'm just gonna clarify. He did not deliberately kill a guy.
and I believe the also was acquitted by merit of it being ruled as a self-defense action, if memory serves.
Yes.
I
Yes.
really, I really,
I'm not in the I'm not in the business of slandering Randy Bly unintentionally as a part of a joke that is now run on for 7 minutes.
I really feel like I hope this is the bit in the pod that gets turned into a meme.
I I don't even know how to make a meme of this at this
Yeah,
point is the problem.
I might I might have to include in a manner akin to that Scott Stevens could learn something from Waluigi. The caption from that episode last winter. I might have to make that the out of context quote caption for when the links get dropped on social media, stemming from that rambling. Particularly with, I think it has to be a Marion Hossa with dreads, if anything.
Right.
You know, after that rant, I don't even want to put quality content out here because the quality content of actual decent analysis will never live up to the mental image of Marion Hossa with
I can.
dreadlocks.
I'll just bat off some facts because I feel like you might actually be able to do something with this. Uh, so right now, I got the Oshawa Generals versus Ottawa 67s game going on right now. The second intermission commenced with Oshawa growing their lead to 3-1 upon the power play goal with a little over 40 seconds remaining. It was interesting listening to the interview that was occurring during, I think, the first intermission with their owner regarding their change of situations. Because, of course, now they're talking about recently departed head coach Derek Laxdal, who left to be the full-time replacement for Disco Dan in Coachella Valley. Like, I was like, oh, wow, what a sequence there, huh? Fresh off of that Eastern Conference championship and getting stomped by London, and now he is Dan Bielsa's successor for the Firebirds.
Yeah, you know, I'm really intrigued about what the Firebirds are going to look like this year. You know, they're definitely going to look better than the Thunderbirds and their puppet ass bullshit. You know, obviously with the knowledge of a lot of Biosmos prospects that were pretty viable, like your Shane Wrights obviously being at the pro level with Biosma this year. You know, whenever you usually see a decent AHL program see their head coach move up to the big show, in recent, at least in terms of recent memory, you usually see an immediate uh, dissension in ability of like, you know, the San Diego Gulls somehow never survived Dallas Aikens going up to the NHL, which is absolutely fucking remarkable, provided he is going to be one of the worst NHL coaches in terms of just win-loss capability in league history. But, like, even Pittsburgh never, like, Wilkes-Barre Scranton never recovered from, you know, Mike Sullivan's departure. And really, the only team I can think of was the Hershey Bears eventually, reloaded the cannons after Bruce Boudreau's historic run with a very underwhelming Washington Capitals team. So I guess my point that I'm getting to is I think he's very much potentially in over his head through no fault of his own, and just the way this works whenever teams internally promote one coach from the AHL. And it's not like, you know, Seattle just promoted Bilesma, but also the knowledge that Jessica Campbell and most of the assistant coaching staff went with him. Installing those new systems at the AHL and making the jump from, you know, players making $175 biweekly stipends to guys making $70,000 a year.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I feel like also it's one of those things too where I think some of those guys it definitely benefits like on the AHL team that comes up to the NHL. Where like I mean I know it's I think back to Pittsburgh and when you look at those cup teams like obviously again you had pieces in place in the forward group and even defensive group. But like when you look at your guys like Brian Russ, your Jake Gensels, your Connor Sherrys, who by any means
Minka Fitzpatrick.
weren't these like big sexy name prospects, but like because Sullivan had kind of worked with them, they knew the system and stuff. Obviously, besides some of the pieces they had already in the NHL, that again, were playmakers who were able to let them pretty much get their game going, get the puck to them when they need to. But like I think that's going to be solid for guys like Shane Wright too, who like obviously again played in the system under those coaches. So I think it's going to help them. With John Cooper, when Cooper came up for Tampa, I mean, how did their AHL bounce?
Well, they weren't as good as when he was there, if I recall correctly. I could be wrong.
Because that's another guy who I felt like was awesome.
Well, I'm trying to think inside my head. You know what pisses me off as I'm trying to fact check this? It makes me angry that I type in John Cooper and the fucking piece of shit singer for Skillet comes up before the Stanley Cup winning hockey coach. Yes, I spelled John wrong, but that's not the point. Yeah, so the thing is, man, when he was coaching the Admirals / Crunch, like, they had that iconic 28-game winning streak when Cooper was in Norfolk, and then, like, they were still real, like, they were 39-18-3-5 in his last year before the promotion. So, like, that fucking org was so good during the Cooper era and the Cooper administration that, like, yeah, they missed the playoffs the first year he was out, and they really weren't the same team after he left, because in 12-13, like, they went all the way to the finals and lost, and obviously the year before they had that fucking transcendental record-setting winning streak. So, like, yeah. But usually, like, when you have that good of a coach at the AHL level, you usually, with the exception of maybe Jeff Blashill, those guys can make really impactful strides at the NHL level.
I do want to point something out specifically about Laxdal, is that this is not his first stab at the AHL, with him having
OJ.
that stint in Texas for 5 years, where he was their head coach and then subsequently was assistant with the big club in Dallas as well. And he has, interestingly, a Kelly Cup title to his name from his time in the Coast. Additionally, like, he's had such like interesting dev stops because before he joined the Stars org, but after his time in the Coast in Idaho, he also had that really impressive run with the Edmonton Oil Kings as well, with 2 WHL chips and a Memorial Cup victory. First coach with 3 50-win seasons in a row in the history of the WHL as well. So like this isn't him like acclimating to a new environment. It's him refamiliarizing himself with a dev system and organization, which was extremely well run. We know what sort of dev track record that Dallas has, and then just recontextualizing it to this new environment. So I think this is a guy, who held very respectable positions in one of the most consistently good organizations in the league. Having gone to a finals with them, with their big club, having cultivated some of their guys in lower rungs before. So it's just a matter of like him, getting back into the swing of things of what it's like in the top pro org environment after having spent a couple of seasons back in the CHL as part of his very intriguing, constantly shifting between and always doing great things in his various stops in his coaching career.
Yeah, and one thing, and I'm not going to really go too far down this rabbit hole with the time we have left in this week's episode, but with his recent successes, and really something that I thought was fascinating with with Biles's success, in Coachella Valley after his long run, as in an analyst role after his tremendous failure in Buffalo and him seeing himself out in Pittsburgh and the narrative of him being a player's coach. One thing that I really think would be a great deep dive at some point is, how the coaching of Gen Z and Gen Alpha players differentiates from past generations with motivation. I know coaching Gen Z is quite literally what led Ken Hitchcock to retire. Is none of the things that he used to do actually worked anymore because of the difference in values in the players and just their mindsets. So really seeing, like we look at Spencer Carberry and the bizarre success he had last year with Washington on a team that otherwise had no business being in the playoffs, being in the playoffs. And, the success he got out of a lot of their younger guys that maybe we weren't anticipating is just like, what does the wave of coaching strategies look like in the coming years, as we really acclimate to, the Gen Z, Gen Alpha, mentality, because, as somebody who works with, this generation and also a developmental capacity in my day job, like, coaching and developing a 28-year-old to 32-year-old in this era and coaching 18 to 23-year-olds and just in a traditional business is a fucking absurd differentiation in expectations and output. So I'd really love to see what that culture shift looks like at the hockey coaching level, where some guys are finding success versus others.
Yeah. It's interesting. Like, I also wonder like what the dynamic is like because like just like anything else, like so Laxdal is a Gen Xer who was born in '68, and like I feel like there's got to be like a different dynamic between him with Gen Z as opposed to like someone who's solidly from the baby boom, like John Tortorella, for instance. I mean, of course, he's in a fortunate spot where he's low key, despite some of like those awkward player dynamics, like Bobby Brink and Morgan Frost, who we have, you know, joked about as being like an alcoholic son, basically. Like we've come up with like nicknames of those varieties about that topic and what is known as the subsection of Flyers Twitter when it comes to those guys. Um, yeah, like he's sort of like he's acknowledged in like a very self-aware way that like you know you can't handle these guys like you have previous gens. And like I can imagine like someone who's like more solidly from Gen X and been in environments like that, consistently working with Gen Z players for quite some time now, even dating back to like his time with Edmonton is something that's like very familiar with, and like that. I imagine like the internal culture in that room is going to be like very, very strong.
Speaking of strong things, I think we're going to be able to combo this into our big, strong finish.
All right, I'm gonna be real, and ever since it was like announced a week ago, I am very, very disdainful of the San Jose Sharks. What's it called? On ice leadership group this year. Like, what sort of fucking like it takes a village ass bullshit is it for you to have a captain and 5 alternates? Like, bruh, like, is it just gonna be like a contractual agreement that if you come into that org, they're gonna fucking give you an A? Like, it's just like. Uh, that that goes beyond like the logistical quandary of like having to like goddamn fucking accommodate emergencies that might come up and have a contingency plan for that. That's just like ridiculous. Like I don't really respect or appreciate what's going on there, and I don't think it should be normalized. Like you gotta have a couple of those stripped at some point, and hell, it might even be absurd just by merit of the fact that, like, um, the
fact that at least some of those guys aren't guaranteed to have a roster spot for much longer. Like, when you don't give a guy a letter that you would expect it to, it's kind of the writing on the wall normally that the organization is moving on from them. Like, I guarantee you, like, you look at Radko Gudas getting the captaincy rather than Cam Fowler, it's kind of spelling out the fact that the Cam Fowler era is coming to an end in Anaheim soon. So it's just like, man, they just are really fortunate that they've maneuvered well to enough to, have gotten some very strong draft picks and stockpile prospects in the manner that they have. Because I generally am a fan of Mike Greer, but just like the overall direction of that franchise is not ceasing to be dog shit, and it doesn't seem to be stopping anytime soon.
Real quick on that too. Toffoli and Barclay, Gaudreau, getting an A is just a fucking slap in the face to Granlund, Kunin, and Ferraro.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not a fan of a team having a captain and 3 A's, but I also imagine Couture's not going to actually play this year. And 3 assistant captains when your captain's going to miss the whole year. I can allow that. But to give an A to Toffoli and Gaudreau, who were not a part of that absolute dumpster fire shit team last year, like Granlund, Kunin, and Ferraro not either killing themselves or voiding their contracts to get to a more competent organization is enough leadership for me to give those 3 guys a letter. To give guys who didn't suffer through last season letters by just signing a fucking contract is just unbelievably disrespectful to the guys who were there last year.
Yeah, like, pretty much. That's why I effectively, like, is this like some sort of contractually stated agreement? And then when it's not just 3 in that initial announcement, it's 5. And like I did bear in mind, like when I saw it, I was like, is Coach Sherr even going to play a game? Probably not. Which is kind of like funny about the the emphasis placed on him here, but like fucking 5 guys with an A in that fucking graphic was just one of those things where I was like, this is legitimately like a cursed hockey image right off the bat.
Yeah, that's ass. I was gonna say, talking about trash. So last week.
Wait, before that, Luke Kunin is a trophy husband.
Love it.
Yep. His wife won a fucking championship last year. Yep. And all he got is this lousy A. Sorry, you're good.
That's crazy. No, I love it.
Sorry, you're good.
That's awesome. Absolutely awesome point. No, talking about trash, right? Last week talked about injuries, how, already it's been disappointing. IR, all this stuff. And continue on trash, because I can't emphasize it enough. We're already talking about one California team. Let's go to one of the other trash California teams, and the motherfucking LA Kings. Okay, so going off of the injury thing last year, and Christian, you hit it on the head all offseason. Nobody wanted to. My joke yesterday was, hey, maybe Mikey Anderson's going to have that 100-point season all the Kings fans are expecting. So the thing is this, right? We look at preseason. Drew Doughty goes down, fractures his ankle. He's out 10 to 14 weeks. Now, you look at that defensive depth. They have nobody who has any really high level of offensive ability. So if we're looking at a team that's like, dude, okay, you're 3-4 months, your preseason already pretty much ruined your season. Now, that's already tough. Now, let's go to if I look at preseason, I wasn't going to think that preseason was going to spark the hatred once more between the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Montreal Canadiens. And I absolutely love it. Like, you go on social media, and there are these – it's like back in the day with just both fan bases hating each other, and I love it. Hockey needs it. My issue with the preseason and the hatred, okay, the Willie Nylander injury in the first game. Teammate accidentally pushes him. He goes down head first. My big concern, though, in all seriousness, is, and I feel like right now Black Stitch has kind of been a curse, if you will, where there are some players that we've been pretty hyped about, and it's been tough. And, to see Patrick Laine take a dirty fucking knee in a preseason game, and Wi-Fi was just in what he did. I thought that was the correct way to handle a kid throwing a knee on a superstar. And I don't appreciate the fact that George Peros and the NHL decided, hey, we're going to, on top of him getting ejected, we're going to find Wi-Fi. We're going to do all this stuff. When you didn't call a single penalty on Cedric Paré or Paire, you didn't throw him out for an illegal knee. And so my thing is, when we look at respect and we look at, what Patrick Laine and other star players and superstar players mean to the NHL, where you guys, this is where they had, in my opinion, I thought that they had to take a stand, right? So now this sets the standard for the rest of the season, right? Where you can throw a knee on a superstar in a meaningless game and you're fine. And that was one of my biggest issues where, I don't know if they've released the MRI or anything that is the official damage to Laine. But moving forward, when we look in, I know Eric Cherry, this is part of Eric Cherry's thing with the code of conduct and, street justice or ice justice, right? And so for me, we've seen the impact of injuries already in preseason, but we've also seen, the NHL already not handling a situation on the ice correctly. And so for me, those are two huge things that I'm definitely going to be focused on because I'm curious.
Yeah, I mean, I think the NHL's discipline for Jack Eye had to happen. I alluded to this morning in our group chat, why Jack Eye isn't suspended, why this isn't more endemic, is if you watch the replay, and I'm getting pissed at Leafs fans for being a bunch of fucking pussies about this on social media, oh, he just came out and jumped him. If you watch that shift, Jack Eye was fucking tagging him for at least 15 seconds trying to get him to fight. When you say after the game in an interview with your bitch-ass head coach, Berube, he didn't mean to do it. Oh, I had to answer for it. I knew it. Jack Guy tagged him for 15 seconds before he fucking before he fucking ragdolled him. The kid's a fucking turtle. There's no place for him in the league. Jack Guy needed to be fined to remind people the precedent that you can't just fucking beat the piss out of whoever you want as an unsuspecting victim. But it's Bush League from Pair, whatever the fuck his shitty name is. The kid doesn't even deserve to play in the A because there's no accountability. Look, you go into the corner, you go knee on knee with a guy because you lack skill. You lack skill. This guy got hurt not because he was trying to make a malicious play, but because he lacked the skill to actually play at this level. And because he shouldn't be at this level, getting a taste, he injured a fucking player. You injured a star for a rival team, and unfortunately didn't get enough CTE for doing so. I think that the Habs handed out the appropriate punishment, and if this kid never plays for the Marlies or the Leafs have done their job. That's my take on it. That's my 2 cents.
No, absolutely. And I mean, we saw a little bit of that too in the Boston Flyers with Sweezy, who kind of went after Michkov in the corner and kind of kept going at him. And I understand, hey, welcome to the NHL. This is your first step. But, dude, when you're a nobody, it's not the 1970s, the 1980s. You're not going to get a position in a roster in the NHL just for going and bullying out some, very highly touted prospect in one of his first games. So it's obviously, again, we saw how that game ended, but
yeah, I think it really highlighted, irrespective of whether or not it was in response to anything in particular, it wasn't smart for Slafkovsky to drop the gloves in that game because, him getting one punch man in that fight was inevitable. And plus, you're a former first overall pick who's, yeah, irrespective of how overrated he may be, he's an essential part of their forward group. So if he's risking him breaking his hand and missing a significant amount of time, it's just a detriment to the group. Whereas Michkov knew that sort of risk there was was very present for him, and it would be a detriment to his team as well as his own NHL dev as well. So he stood his ground, but he didn't give into it because that wasn't gonna serve him or his team any good. And he also knew that Couturier was gonna be in his corner for him, as it turned out, with him showing his exceptional leadership prowess. So it's like, it's one of those good exercises in the events of like that, those couple of games, and those narratives and the contrast between them is sort of like an exercise and a reminder reminder about the importance of discretion and what it looks like.
Speaking on multiple things, I needed to wrap this week on another shitty California hockey team. I do love Gunas getting his captaincy, as we alluded to. I really hate that for Cam Fowler, though, man. Leaves a bad taste in my mouth. You know, Seattle traded Mark Giordano pretty quickly after giving him the C. Cam Fowler is the last guy on the Ducks roster, besides John Gibson, who's laced them up with Getzlaf, Perry, and Solani. To not give that guy the C at any point in his tenure with this organization after everything he's done, the 45-minute game that only went to one overtime in regular season, after everything that Cam Fowler gave the organization, man, it feels wrong. And I know we're going to trade him, probably to the fucking Red Wings or the Devils at the deadline, because they could both use a veteran, kind of slow skating second pairing D that doesn't make a lot of mistakes. And I'm gonna hate to see it, or even the Leafs. I don't know where he's gonna go, but man, it doesn't feel like we did right by a company man that was here for so many years. And I think Gudas does deserve the captaincy, but man, the fact that we fucking basically gooned fucking Fowler for the last 4 years of not having a captain on our roster and then doing this, like, I hate the look of that. I hate how it feels. Like, that's not how you treat a guy who's been a flag bearer through your best years, following the cup win, the rebuild years. I don't know. It leaves a bad taste in my mouth. Do better, Verbeek. Do better, Cronin. Like, you gotta do something for a guy who was there for literally 13 plus seasons.
Also, want to say big F for that Gibson injury as well.
Honestly,
Yeah.
though, I don't like the injury for Gibson, but I like the injury for Gibson in the sense he gets to sit for the first 3 to 6 weeks. He gets to see how Cronin rebuilds the team to start the year. He gets the time to fix his mental health before he gets thrown into the bullshit. So I like it for John Gibson. I hate it for his physical health. I wish suffering upon no one. But to have the time to collect himself and like let Dostal entrench himself as the 1A, potentially let Callie Klang settle in as the 1B, and then Gibson just has to show up, get his mind right, get his body right after the appendectomy, after his recovery, get hot for like 2 months, dial in, figure out the system from the film room, and get yourself traded to a better hockey team. Like for him, think it's actually like a terrible moment, and I cannot stress that enough. But I think it's going to give him a great opportunity to potentially put himself in a position where he can get the fuck out of Southern California and maybe play on a team that's going to play into the month of May over the next couple years.
Provided this like collective CTE that the forward group seems to have ever goes away. Like, I've been thinking, like, we contextualize like the juxtaposition between the two most individually prolific forwards from the 2019 draft class in the form of Jack Hughes and Trevor Zegras. Like, Zegras has the advantage in on puck skill by a noticeable but not huge margin. But the skating gap between him and Hughes is huge, and like we've noted before, like Hughes makes the greater number of high IQ plays and like the better reads overall. And I had to think that that's something wrong with like the just like the way that forward dev seems to occur, with like Troy Terry being the notable like exception to that. Because I don't think when those guys were at the USN TDP and BU respectively that was really the case. Like I don't necessarily think it went about those guys as prospects and think that Hughes was noticeably the smarter player of the two. And that's to say nothing of how that's seemingly rubbed off even on Leo Carlson to a degree for as intelligent as he is. And then of course you already have Gautier in that mix who has who seems to be continuing down that path of high shot volume, very few shots even on target of that bunch. And it's just you know, that's one of the big things alongside conditioning and preparation that seems to be withholding them is that they're just incapable of almost almost across the board of maintaining and continuing to cultivate the hockey IQ of their forward group.
Fair.
I do think there are some potentials that even to stay the course and or steady it rather for even Gautier to an extent. We talked about him and Terry together. I think even having McTavish with that bunch because to have him as the net front guy to clear up the garbage that inevitably comes out to go along with the guy with the high shot volume and the guy whose actual perception is really good works. Carlson would also work to make Gautier look good as well. Although if the course continues with those two and that degradation of decision making capabilities, then that isn't the way. Ideal situation. Yeah, probably McTavish and Terry, but it would be. We've also floated around the possibility that Cronin will probably fuck it up and have Gautier with Vetrano and McTavish.
Yeah.
Man, but yeah, so we're at the point now where next episode will only be a couple of days away from the launch of the NHL regular season. So now, we'll be able to talk about these narratives as they unfold in real time pretty soon. We'll have the final bow on early phase dev seasons as well as what the culmination of the preseason look like. And there'll be a lot to talk about in the next coming weeks. And we'll see what gets churned out on the written end for you. My KHL series is still ongoing. Much shout out to and props to Yegor Zavragin, Flyers prospect, currently under contract with Skaba, playing on loan with HC Sochi, for having a save percentage that's actually superior to that of Ilya Nabokov, last year's Gagarin Cup heroes from Metallurg Magnitogorsk. Quite an impressive feat from Zavragin there. Kind of a small sample size, 4 out of the 9 games he's appeared in, but for him to be posting a 9.20 as a 19-year-old on a team that struggles that much, seeing him get outshot 40-13 and stopping 37 of those in that matchup against Lokomotiv was something special. And I'm hoping to continue to cover narratives like that for you. Thank you for everyone. Thank you to everyone who tuned in. Thank you to everyone who's listening on Spotify and checking us out on YouTube, etc. We'll see you again very soon. Take care, everybody. Have a great night.